Alright, welcome to another episode of Seeds of Music, the web's #1 resource for independent artists. This is our weekly web show where I bring on successful musicians and music industry professionals to talk about better and more effective ways to build a fan base and make more musical income. Our guest on today's show is Jen Woodhouse. She is a Nashville songwriter, wife, and mother of two that has built a solid fan base for her music. She's made a profit from touring and, interestingly enough, also from an online performance that she did on Stage It as well. And we're going to sit down with her and talk about what her approach has been to building this solid fan base that actually supports her, what her #1 source of music income is, and also a little bit about how she approached doing the Stage It performance, because this was an online live stream event. She actually was able to bring a lot of people out to that and make some money from it as well. So let's jump right in. All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Seeds of Music. On today's show, we have a Nashville songwriter, the wonderful Jen Woodhouse. Jen, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for asking. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah, and I always, in these interviews, I always feel showing up with my backgrounds because I know my background's pretty lame right here, but you have this like wonderful fireplace and this like huge space. So I need to step it up a bit. So I wanted to start off with just first two questions. These are kind of like, boom questions here. What's been your approach to building a fan base so far? Because I know that you've toured quite extensively and you've been able to not just like cut even, with touring, because a lot of artists are scraping by, like riding in a van and like eating Taco Bell and throwing up the Taco Bell and then eating more Taco Bell and throwing it. And they're just breaking even, but you were able to tour and actually make a profit from that because of the fan base that you had worked to build. I mean, I'm just curious, what's your approach to building that fan base?
Building the fan base? Well, obviously most musicians know it's going to be the music first. Because you have to have a product, you have to have something to sell.
Yeah.
But then secondly, it's about relationships. I wasn't just like, hey, buy my CD, hey, come to my show. I really kind of want to invest in building that relationship, and so that people feel like they know me, they feel like they can relate to me, they think of me as their friend, and then they also have ownership in the things like the successes that I do or the new stuff that comes out. So they have we have a relationship. It's not just
so fans
a fan
have
base.
to. So you think fans have to get involved in order to take them to that next level?
I think so, because then, there is ownership there. There is a sense of, hey, I'm not just a fan, but I'm a friend. And so, I remember one of my friends, and she was the kind of person that was always looking like, what can you do for me? And I just don't really think that's a very good way to go.
I think that it gets you only so far, because like
right.
I had a friend of mine that was telling me a story about some guy that had called, like he had done favors for, and the guy called. Well, he had actually asked this person for a couple favors, and at the time he said, yeah, sure, but never did it. And then he called him up quite some time later and asking him for a favor, but he was really selling him hard. And it just, it kind of like there was no prior relationship built up
right. Yeah.
to that point where that guy could come back to him and say, hey, I want you to do this for me. Because he very much had that mentality of what's in it for me. And so it didn't work out. In short.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and people see through that real quickly. And so when you're building that relationship and when you're playing the live shows and you're talking to your audience and you're engaging with them, it's a two-way thing. It's a give and take. And I always, like in my live shows, I always think about how can I make this the most enjoyable experience for them? Like what's in it for them?
Yeah.
What can I offer for them? And instead of, hey, look at me and I'm playing and singing and
So is it I know a lot of musicians that think just make the music and if people connect, they connect. If they don't, then screw them. I know some musicians that think like that. Is that kind of like fly in the face of what you're saying? I mean, do you feel like that's like the wrong approach?
Well, no, not quite necessarily the wrong approach. I mean, but you know, there's things work differently for everyone. But um, I don't know. You can't please everyone, obviously.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not out to, hey, why don't you like me?
Maybe I didn't word that correctly, but it's not necessarily that you get upset if someone doesn't, like your music,
Right.
and it's not necessarily that you just allow people to like or not like your music and not make an effort, because there are people who might like it a little bit, but would like it a lot more if, like, you gave them this ownership that you're talking about.
Right.
Like they'd be
Sure.
more connected. But I'm just curious,
Invested, yep.
yeah. So when you say ownership, like what exactly do you think that really means? Like, does that mean that they're owning physically the music, like they're being sold it, or like what exactly does that mean? I'm just curious.
No, ownership as in like in your career. And like, for instance, when I went on tour, this was years ago, when Kickstarter, I don't know if you're familiar with Kickstarter, but it was like
I did a
the
campaign.
platform. Okay.
Yeah.
So this was when Kickstarter was just, I think they were still in their beta mode. And I signed up and I did this, I did the thing where, help put me on tour and this is what you get in, in trade. So that sort of ownership where, people would say, hey, my name is in the liner notes because I donated X amount of money to further this girl's career. Mm-hmm. And, so that's kind of the ownership and the investment that I'm talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like in a way they invest. It's more than them just like buying like an album, which is investing in, and that money goes back to the artist. Right. They are investing to the artist's career, but it's like doing something beyond that. Like
it's that relationship I'm talking about. I mean, and it's not even, they don't even have to, donate the money to, to have their name in the liner notes or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But just coming to the shows, talking to me afterwards, that sort of thing. And then let's say something big happens and I splash it over my Facebook page. Hey, guess what? This is happening. Yeah. And then they can share in that success.
Yeah. Do you ever, after you're done playing a set, do you get off stage and like physically walk in the crowd and talk to people? What do you do after you're done?
Yes. Normally I've got somebody handling the merch, but I'll go back there and a lot of times sign CDs, take pictures with people, talk to people and just do the meet and greet. Cause I mean, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. Do you, besides being fun, do you think it's critical to building those relationships?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Because, I know that if I'm watching, let's say, a huge artist and you just feel so detached, like you're, I mean, they're just another person. But if they don't do a meet and greet or anything like that and you just like, hey, I went and saw the show, and then you move on with your life. Yeah. But if you actually have an experience where, we took the pictures together, or we chatted for a little while, and then it's just that much more of a memorable experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And it seems like creating connection, not detachment, and creating something more memorable is more important, especially when you don't have, I hate this word, but rock god status or whatever, where you have a huge crowd, and obviously they can't meet and greet everyone, so people that have to meet and greet have to pay extra because that's extra value for that fan, so they pay more. Which I think is at some point you can artists below that level that don't have a major label deal can still offer experiences like that, like a meet and greet. Just get really creative with it and charge extra for it, and you'd be totally justified because you can't do that with every one of your all of your fans, So you have to charge extra.
And it's also helpful too because then people are posting things, especially now in the social media age, where it is everywhere. And so if you take a picture with a person who came to your show, and then you're going to find that show up on Instagram, or they're going to tweet it, and so that's just spreading more news, spreading
spreading your message, your awareness, getting that quote unquote exposure that everybody, us all as musicians, like we want more exposure, but you have to really
especially indie musicians where the word of mouth and grassroots marketing is really the heart of
I think 100%. 100% agreed that that's the heart. That will cut through any social media, just plain old word of mouth, which is probably why touring is so effective still.
Right.
During this time, what was your number one source of music income?
It would have to be playing the live shows. At one point, I was playing, 6 nights a week, and we were doing 4-hour shows,
Mm-hmm.
and just getting paid for the shows, and then of course, tips and CD sales and merch sales and things like that.
What was the stream of income within those live shows that brought the most income? Was it selling the tickets? Was it?
Yeah, it was the venue paying the artist, for their performance.
Mm-hmm. How did you get to the point where the venue paying you ended up being profitable? Because I know we struggle a lot with venues, saying, "Oh, it'd be good exposure, so play for free."
Yeah.
How were you able to get to that point where you're making a profit because the venue is paying you to play?
Gosh. Well, in this case, it was unique because we did the gig overseas. There was a booking agent who books, Asia, Southeastern Asia.
Oh, okay. So this was outside the U.S. market.
Right.
Okay.
And then they said, okay, there's this venue and we're going to pay you this much to play this much in this month, for these months. And that was sort of it. But normal venues like within the U.S., there were tons of times when, you're just playing for tips or you're just playing, for however many people show up at the door and a percentage of that.
Why do you think it is like that here in the U.S.?
It's because the supply, is much greater than the demand, I guess. Especially in Nashville. I mean, it's really next to impossible to play live in Nashville just simply because the supply is just so saturated. And there are even places in Nashville that I know of that it's pay to play, which is complete BS. But
that's here in LA. Yeah, I can name a few venues that do that. But
really? Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So
it's hard. That sucks even more because
and it's also
it's a pain to get out there to drive.
Right. Well, I mean, it's also difficult too because there are people and there are players that will do that, and so that hurts the people that are trying to make a living.
You think it? So you think overall, you feel like it hurts all of us whenever a musician agrees to pay to play.
Oh, or even play for free. I mean, because there is worth there, and you should know that, and you should rightfully charge for that.
What would you have to say to artists that when they come up to get, they want to get paid for a show, but when it comes to money and getting money or giving money, just transaction of money, they're just really, like curl into a ball, like someone just like released poison gas. Like what? I know that's my best analogy I can think of, which was a horrible analogy as usual. But what would you say to an artist like that who's just like so adverse to that transaction, like that they will get to that point where they feel like they have to do stuff for free, where they have to pay someone else to play?
Well, I mean, obviously you have to pay your dues. I know that that's sort of just the way it works, and so. Yeah, you will play the open mics. You will play for free, at first. But then you move along, and then as you're building that fan base and you're building those relationships, and then let's say you go to a venue and you can bring in 200, 300 people.
Yeah.
Then you are of value, so you should obviously be paid for that value. So then you can go to the venue and say, "Hey, this is my draw."
Yeah.
I could place my ticket price and I can get a percentage of that, or you guys can make the money off of the drinks that you're serving or whatever, where I'll collect the door tickets, ticket money. And so, I mean, you definitely have to get to that point. However, it's kind of a, when do you know? I guess when you feel confident that you can bring in a crowd.
Yeah, I feel like it's also when you can say everything you just told me clearly and concisely to a venue owner. Because like everything that you were saying showed that you were, first of all, aware of your value, aware of the music's value. And second of all, which is the only thing they care about, is you're aware of the value that it brings to them and how much money they can make.
Right.
Because that's all
Sure.
they care. Yeah, that's all they care about. Unless there's a video owner who's like has a harder, I'm not saying they don't. I
Right.
was about to say something horrible,
But
like
it's a
video.
business,
But
so
yeah. I'm not saying they're bad people or whatever, because I'm sure not. But like they have to bills to pay, just like the
sure.
musicians do. And they might
Absolutely.
be, and the ones that say pay to play, maybe they're kind of skeezy, probably. But for the ones that aren't, you need to, again, like this goes back to what you were saying about thinking about others first. Not being a narcissistic artist, which I know can be hard for some of us, but just approaching them and saying, "Hey, let's do it like this because I have this size of fan base. The ticket price is going to be this, which means you'll make
Yeah,
this
it's
much
a
money."
win-win for both of us.
Yeah,
Right.
and that's just like coming down to having like this different kind of intelligence. Like musicians have musical intelligence, visual artists have visual intelligence, and that is social intelligence. Like being able to look at someone and understand their wants and needs and how you can fulfill that and create a win-win. And I don't think there's anything wrong with being a musician, but also having the ability to do that,
To have that
especially
business sense, sure.
yeah, especially if it's going to get to you to where you want to be. Making, whether that's making just a little bit more from your live gigs or making a full-time living. I don't think there's anything wrong with pursuing that. There's one interesting question I had about something you did in August of 2012. You did a Stage It performance
Right.
because
Oh, yeah.
you were because you have. By the way, guys, Jen does all of this with 2 kids and a husband. So if you think you don't have time, just take a cue from her. Just blows my mind.
Well, I've got a very good husband.
Yeah,
He helps me a whole lot.
yeah, but still, in my mind, I'm just like, wow, that's awesome. But so at the time, you were pregnant, so you couldn't do this performance. So you did it on Stage It. I'm curious how. In case no one knows, Stage It is kind of like a way to put on online performances, and it's a pay what you want model to get a
You can
ticket.
do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have options. I mean, you could set the ticket price, or you can say pay what you want,
Okay.
or
What
whatever.
did you
Yeah.
say for yours?
I think it was a pay what you want. Just whoever wants to come and see, because I was in my living room and I didn't have to travel
Oh, okay.
anywhere, and so there was
Okay.
no cost involved, and
Okay.
it was just a lot of fun. And I
Yeah.
was missing playing live, sort of
Yeah.
live, I guess,
Oh,
because
that's
I
like
was pregnant. So
it's live electricity going through
sure,
wire and transferring stuff.
it's
So
live in the fact that it's real time. How about
yeah,
that?
it is. Yeah, no, that's true. Because if the news can do it and slap live on there, a football game, you can watch a football game live. Then yeah, it's live.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
but how successful was that? If you define success as in getting a lot of people to show up.
It was good because I think at the time I was pregnant and I wasn't able to tour, and so I would get messages like, "When's your next show? What's going on? Have you fallen off the face of the earth?" And so it was sort of a way to connect with. I hate calling them fans because it just
Really?
that
Wow.
yeah people who listen to my music.
Oh, you're being super humble. I get it. Okay.
No, it's just it is kind of like that narcissistic thing, I guess.
I don't think it's that. I mean, if you like, what could be like a worse something like that you call fans like peons? If you called them peons,
Or
that would be.
rupees. I don't know.
Oh yeah, that'd be
So-
something totally different. But
So anyway,
yeah.
so that was a great way to
Mhm.
connect with them again and kind of, say, hey, here's what's going on. I'm still playing music. I'm not dead. So, because people are very fickle and their memory is not so
Yeah.
good if you're not always in the forefront of their mind. So,
Yeah.
it's so if you stop working, the work stops.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's true. But what's cool is that I know a lot of some musicians may harp on about technology, but here's like a point where technology helps you to keep the work going, and you're able to get good amount of people out there. How much? When you ask them to pay what they want, how much? I'm not no specific numbers, but were you like, wow, I made a good bit of money here?
Yeah. actually it was good because my husband's like, you should do those more often.
Okay, there we go.
So
Yeah.
it was good, and it was fun, and again, I was able to reconnect with people that I haven't seen in a while, and I, even if I didn't make any money at all, it still would have been a win for me, just because. But I mean, luckily,
was it comparable to an actual like live venue show
okay,
in terms of money
I'm
generated?
I'm trying to think of the actual number. I want to say it was like, I don't know, maybe a couple $100.
That's yeah. That's definitely a lot more than 100. Like I have a friend that just did a show and he made like, a sweet 100, which is awesome. But that's cool that you can, with the strong relationships, you can do a digitized live show and make comparable. I think that's cool.
Yeah, and that was a lot of fun too, because before the show, I could take requests, so people could send me, "Hey, what do you want this show to look like? What songs do you want to hear?"
Yeah,
and so again, that was that interactive thing.
They're like, oh, we want someone dancing in the background. Sure.
That's right. Okay, I'll do that for you.
Let me hire a dancer. Let's do the Kickstarter to hire the dancer.
I'll take my toddlers in the background.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that is actually there's something to that right there. Because if you're talking about going back to ownership, what if you did a series of for a month, like one show like that a week, and people could your fans could weigh in on what songs they wanted to play, what they wanted going on in the background, I mean, it'd be even cool if Stage It could go even further and you could have like a whole video crew doing it. That would be awesome. I think that's something interesting for anybody listening to kind of check that out. If you happen to be, even if you can play a live show, just try to experiment.
And that's another thing too, is I would do, at the time it was Ustream, where I would stream even when I was on tour, stream the shows. Yeah. So people can see, if they couldn't make it out or whatever.
Did you, were you able to figure out if people were actually watching the Ustream?
Yeah. There, you could see how many people are watching, and they could chat in the little chat room or whatever. I mean, I don't think in Ustream at the time you could charge anything. So it was just sort of, a free for all, but still it was nice to be able to offer that.
Yeah. Like get all of your fans involved in every show as much as possible. Cause like you said, not saying anything bad about people in general, but people forget, it's just because we're distracted by so much stuff. Like so much stuff is competing for not only our own lives, but like other companies and other people like trying to grab our attention. So attention is super, super hard to grab. So you want to be consistent in any way possible, reaching out in any way possible. And I think there's some awesome ideas that you've presented here. This last question, I've done a few like different fun last questions, but I'm asking this one totally selfishly because I'm just like a productivity nut. But I know there's musicians out there who really want to learn how to get stuff done, be more productive, so they have more time to create music. I feel the same way. What is like your routine to get ready to like do work?
Okay.
Walk us through step by step.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Being self-employed, you really have to have a schedule. At least I do. I mean, I need that kind of discipline. Otherwise, I'll just be, wasting time surfing the internet for hours, and then nothing is done.
Doing a Wikipedia rabbit hole. You're just like,
right, exactly. And you're like, oh, I didn't know. Yeah. Now I learned so many things, so many useful things.
I found out that the writer of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, the Matt character, is actually married to Dee's character. I found that out because I went in a Wikipedia dive.
There you go. See? So yeah, you have to set hours, just like if it was a desk job. So a lot of times, what I would do is between the hours of 8 a.m. to noon, I'm doing emails, I'm doing promotion, I'm doing booking, and and especially as an indie artist, you have to do all of that, and so doing all the business side of it, and then set aside some time also to write. Okay, between these hours, I'm going to try to write. I'm going to practice. I'm going to rehearse for the next show or whatever, and or I'm going to write the set list down for tonight's show, that sort of thing, and then and then just do it and stick to it. On my bathroom mirror, actually, it's been there. Like every New Year's resolution, I put them up.
Okay.
The first one is make the bed every day, which that's like the most simple thing, but it makes me feel more productive. And then the second one is don't be a time waster, because that's just so important. Because just don't be a time waster.
You're not getting it back.
Right. Yeah. And then so let's see what else. Productivity. Yeah, I mean, I would just say you have to set your schedule and actually stick to it, and that way you can be productive. And even if you can't do that, do at least one thing every day towards your music career.
Yeah, for sure. I've actually can echo that same sentiment of at least about taking at least one step, even if it's like a 10-minute step or a 15-minute step.
Right. Even if it's just sending an email to a venue or, to the press or something.
Yeah. Because you want to keep moving, but you never ever want to stop. And you don't necessarily have to be sprinting the whole time.
Right. Yeah. Because I mean, if you stop working, then the work stops. It doesn't, unless you're at that point, I guess, when you've got that momentum that you can take a break or whatever. But yeah, you definitely have to keep working.
All right. Awesome. Well, Jen, that's some awesome productivity nuggets there. It's more and more I ask people those questions. I see kind of similar things popping up. I know there's variations in it, but constantly reminding us of your goals, taking daily action, and writing schedules that you can look at and know these block of times is when I do this one thing.
Right.
Just one thing as I focus on for a couple hours. It's really important. But yeah, thanks again for coming on the show. And I just wanted to let everyone listening that you have an album, The Shaping and Shifting Objects and Sound, and latest single is Through This Fire. What is the best way for people to connect with you and check out that music?
They can go to my website, which is jenwoodhouse.com.
Okay, awesome. Actually, I went over there and I saw like the cool little animations of like the different versions of you like in front of the mirror. Like I was just scrolling back and forth real fast and it was like...
Right. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm also on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and what else, everywhere. So
okay. Awesome. Well, everybody make sure to check out with Jen and good luck with everything that you're working on building the fan base, and hopefully take some of these tips to better your music career for sure. But thanks.
Thank you.
Check you later.